If you enjoy Strange Podcast and would like to show your support, please consider making a donation. Donations will help to develop Strange Podcast and ensure more episodes in the future. All donations go towards the production and distribution fees associated with producing our episodes. These fees include things like web hosting, audio hosting, website plugins and software, and studio hardware. You can make a donation of any size by visiting the donation page at strangepodcast.com. All donations are very gratefully received, no matter how big or small. Thank you for your support. Welcome to Strange. Revealing strange stories of the paranormal, bizarre coincidence, and unexplained phenomena. You can find out more about Strange Podcast and connect with us on Facebook and Twitter by visiting strangepodcast.com. Hello, I'm Chris Batchelor. Thank you for listening. This is episode 6, where we'll be investigating the very strange case of Jacqueline Priestman, a group of mysterious streetlight effectors known as sliders, and other electrifying people. And a special thank you to everybody who's taken the time to find us on Twitter, Facebook, and online at strangepodcast.com. We really appreciate your comments and your feedback. And we'd like now to introduce to you a new section of the podcast dedicated to the feedback and general communication that we're getting from people who listen to the show and who want to get in touch. People like David, who's been in touch with some lovely comments about the podcast and a future episode idea. A show all about Admiral Byrd. Admiral Byrd the adventurer, who controversially revealed his hollow Earth theory after exploring the South Pole in 1947. Conspiracy theorists claim the Admiral discovered an entrance to the centre of the Earth where a super civilization exists. Critics claim that too much interpretation of the Admiral's poetic writings have taken place in order to come up with these ideas. It's a fantastic show suggestion, and we're currently doing more research before committing a full episode to the Admiral. If you'd like to get in touch with episode suggestions of your own, strange news that you've discovered, or maybe to tell us about your own strange experience, then details of how to contact us are coming up very soon. Also, a special thank you to Howard, who's been in touch. He says in his email, "Chris, have you seen this interesting and strange story?" Clicking on the link, it takes me to the Economic Times at theindiantimes.com. Scientists have uncovered what they believe to be a Frankenstein Galaxy. Scientists have uncovered a bizarre Frankenstein Galaxy, possibly formed from the parts of other galaxies located about 250 million light-years away. A new study unveils the secret of UGC 1382, a galaxy that had originally been thought to be old, small, and typical. Instead, scientists using data from NASA telescopes and other observatories have discovered that the galaxy is 10 times bigger than previously thought, and unlike most galaxies, its insides are younger than its outsides, almost as if it's been built using spare parts. This rare Frankenstein Galaxy formed and is able to survive because it lies in a quiet little suburban neighbourhood of the universe where none of the hubbub of the more crowded parts can bother it. It's an interesting story and well worth a look, and we'll put a link to that story in the show notes at strangepodcast.com. Get in contact with Strange Podcast, and it could be you featured in a future episode. We're looking for interesting stories and accounts of strange happenings from our listeners. Maybe you've witnessed an apparition, been involved in an inexplicable event, or have a story to tell that can't be explained away by just coincidence. If you'd like to contribute to a future episode, please head to the contact page at strangepodcast.com. I'm sure you've experienced this. I know that I have. You're walking down a street. It's dark. Up ahead is the orange glow of the sodium street lamps. As you get close to a street lamp, it starts to flicker. And then, just as you pass under the lamp, it switches off completely, only to come back on again once you've passed by. Is this coincidence? Or are you having an effect on the lamp in some way? So many people have had this or a similar experience that parapsychologists have given it its own name, streetlight interference or SLI. Those who feel that they're repeatedly affected refer to themselves as sliders. Jacqueline Priestman was a wife and mother living in Stockport in the United Kingdom. Following an argument with her first husband, Ron, Jacqueline shouted words that she would go on to regret saying for the rest of her life. "I hope you break your neck." Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. After Ron sped away from the house on his motorbike, he was involved in an accident, resulting in spine and neck fractures. After a month in hospital, he sadly died, leaving Jacqueline devastated by guilt. Not long afterwards, strange things began happening in Jacqueline's home. A light bulb in the bathroom exploded. The flying glass cut her arm. She put the cause down to a faulty light bulb. But when her vacuum cleaner kept burning out and repairmen couldn't find any cause, and then another light bulb exploded, she became convinced her home was haunted by the ghost of her dead husband. Jacqueline moved, but the strange phenomena seemed to follow her. Electrical appliances continued to go haywire in her presence. The stove and vacuum cleaners she bought kept burning out. The television changed channels on its own, and the picture distorted. The radio switched channels without being touched. She also appeared to have the ability to receive and deliver severe electrical shocks. It's even claimed some grocery stores and appliance shops attempted to ban her for fear of expensive equipment repairs. After she married her second husband, who was an electrician by all accounts, the strange and frightening phenomena continued to occur. The now depressed woman who suffered headaches and fainting spells contemplated suicide. Psychic mediums and investigators failed to find a cause. Allegedly, once a visiting reporter accused Jacqueline of fraud, making her so angry the vacuum cleaner burst into flames. Then finally, some relief. A visiting professor provided the key to Jacqueline's dilemma. He believed she suffered from an extreme buildup of static electricity, more than 10 times the normal amount. By sticking to a special diet and daily program which included walking around the house holding onions to discharge the surplus electricity, Jacqueline's problem gradually diminished. So what was the cause of Jacqueline's condition? Could it be something known as high voltage syndrome or HVS? Jacqueline isn't alone in displaying this strange phenomena. High voltage syndrome cases have been recorded as far back as 1837. One of the earliest investigated cases of HVS, or an electric person as it was known at the time, was that of Angelique, of Laperriere in France. At the age of 14, a strange condition befell her in which any object she went near would retreat from her, as if pushed, like magnets repelling each other. The mere touch of her hand was enough to send heavy furniture flying away from her. No one could hold down the furniture or stop it flying from their grasp. In 1837, a young American woman found herself dramatically charged with electricity for 5 months. Anyone she passed her hands over would be painfully zapped with static electricity. More recently, in 1976, after breaking his arm, 12-year-old Vivian Jones of Bristol found that he could illuminate light bulbs by touching them. Televisions and lights would also flicker in his presence. Mandy Boardman got through 6 vacuum cleaners and 6 TVs in 3 years. Her friends said she always gave them a shock when touching them. What causes people to retain so much static electricity is unknown, but is not necessarily a modern condition. Despite the massive increase in electricity use, recorded instances don't seem to have risen that dramatically in the past 150 years. One of the most remarkable stories of HVS is described in a publication called Electrical Experimenter in June 1920, in which Dr. J.B. Ransom, a chief physician at the Clinton prison in New York, reported 34 convicts suffering from botulinus poisoning. One had tried to throw away a piece of paper and found it stuck to his hand due to static. Soon all the affected inmates were of the same highly charged condition, varying in intensity with the severity of the poisoning. Compasses went wild in their vicinity, and metal objects were deflected from their grasp. The effects soon faded as they recovered. If you'd like to make a comment on what you've heard in this episode, you can on the episode page at strangepodcast.com. There you'll also find interesting links to the resources and evidence featured in this episode. And don't forget, you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter by going to strangepodcast.com. Until next time, thank you for listening.